Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the entire United States. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by whom? We the people, created by you. We have a lot to talk about today, folks. A lot to talk about. But what we're going to concentrate and centralize on is something called the abundance doctrine, the fake out that what they like to call the centrists, what I call is the right of center Democrats are trying to push, disregarding much of what America needs, much of what most Democrats ask for, much of what our poor Republicans many times in silence are requesting. But anyway, folks, we are going to go to the studio, speak to El Señor Howard Reynolds, Jack Van Beber, and with us this morning again is Mayana. This is Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies. Sorry for the little tin cans and strings. We had half of the connections going and half of them not going, but we are connected now and we have a hell of a show getting ready to start for you right now. But without further ado, let's get to El Señor Jack Van Beber with Howard Reynolds and Mayana. How you guys doing there in the studio?
Hello, Egberto. How are you?
Well, we're doing great. Getting all the tin cans and string together here. So I think we got them together. And Mayana, good morning to you. And thanks for coming in. Jack, what you got, man? You got a whole page of wisdom here.
Well, it's just Egberto's headlines here with a little thing on the end of it. Musk leveraged government for personal gain since election day. Musk's net worth has increased by over $100 billion. Analysts find majority of Trump cabinet are tied to Project 2025 groups, and they are literally running the show. Citing a study from Sanders calls Trump GOP budget bill a death sentence for 51,000 American citizens yearly. This is grotesque. This is a thinning of the herd, the poor, the sick, the old. This hides the truth they are not telling you. Our overpopulation is an issue that nobody's talking about. They're just finding new and creative ways to eliminate people with policy.
Sickening.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of folks don't understand this is really serious. But you know what? Let's throw it to Sandy and then we'll get deep into this. This is some important stuff. Those of you that are just joining us right now, I have an important message. I think it's more profound even so than the AI message we talked about yesterday. But let's go to Sandy and then we moved on from there. All right, folks, I'm going to start with something Jack said, ended on with the debt. Because this morning, as I was going through Morning Joe, Steve Ratner was on showing how we got here with the debt, and we got here with the debt because of a lot of continual tax cut. There's something that Steve said that I want to correct because it behooves me. When we have the mainstream media talking to Americans and the assumption that they make is that you are unaware or dumb, but they do the things that these folks do all of the times. They snow you. Let me give an example as far as what he's talking about. He points out that if we hadn't done the Bush tax cut in the 2000s, if we hadn't done the Trump tax cuts in 2017 and subsequently the one that he's attempting to do today. And remember, most of these tax cuts went to billionaires and very high income folks. So if we had not given any tax cut to these folks at all, it would not have had a material effect on the economy. Why? I'm going to use a special term here and explain it. Because the marginal propensity to consume of rich people doesn't change based on how much taxes they pay. In other words, if you have $1 billion, right, and you like steaks at whatever place you get your steaks, having to pay more in taxes isn't going to stop you from having that steak that you want to have, because you are a multi-billionaire and that steak is immaterial in what you are doing. So, Steve, so again, we could have always given tax cuts to the average American, which end up to be very little that they get right now anyway, and forget about giving it to the wealthy who, remember, and I want all of you to keep this in the back of your heads. The wealthy didn't get wealthy because they're special. They got wealthy because they have the economic policies of this economy allows them to better utilize your labor for themselves. Don't ever forget that, or don't let anybody tries to fool you into thinking that these guys have something special you don't, because you are the ones who make our economy run. You're the secretaries, the teachers, the launderers, the person who sweeps the floor, the garbage person. The people who do the least are the folks sitting down in an office playing around with stock papers, for this buying and selling stocks. Don't do anything for the economy, or the bankers that simply play around with how best to utilize financial instruments. They don't do anything for the economy. But that's the economic system that we have. So the debt, he points out that the debt would have been to zero by now. Again, remember that under Clinton, when he raised taxes, and specifically on wealthy folks, when he raised those taxes, we were on the trajectory to balance budget, and we actually got to a balanced budget and a small surplus. Not a balanced debt, balanced budget to a small surplus. And Bush came in, started the raising of the raising taxes, raising the deficits, etc. When that occurred, remember, you get, as deficit spending every year, you spend more on interest on the debt. Steve Ratner comes out and says, well, if these tax cuts didn't occur, and if we hadn't grown our spending as much as we did, we would be balancing the budget. But the implication there is that the spending rise that we had was unjustified, and that if we had just put it down a little bit more, in other words, give people a little bit less Medicaid, give people a little bit less Medicare, give people a little bit less SNAP, and all these issues, that it would have been okay. So what he's trying to do there is share the blame. There is no blame to be shared at all. The amount of money given for social programs isn't what destroyed our budgetary process. It's tax cuts to the parasites that did. And because every time we got a tax cut, every year that we spend more, the interest on that debt goes up. That is where the growth is. The sum total of the price that of owning that debt, the price that we're paying in interest, the sum total of our interest charges and the tax cuts cause those interest charges is what's given us our deficits, and now it is relatively out of control. And who do they want to solve it again? You. And think about it. Even as we're talking about cutting our deficit, they still want to give the rich people another mass amount of trillions of dollars. Still, who is always left holding the bag? You. You are always left holding the bag. I say this I wanted to start there with where Jack ended for a very specific reason. Because we have a lot of centrist Democrats and they like to call themselves moderate Democrats or conservative. I don't care what you want to call them. but there's this new doctrine and they're having meetings about it. No, we've been talking about Hakeem Jeffries just not the right person in these times for the fight for you. We've been talking about Chuck Schumer just not being the person in the fight for you. And the rest of the people, Democrats and independents, they are seeing it. And how are they seeing it? They're not listening to these guys as far as how things are going to change. They're listening to folks like AOC and Bernie Sanders and ask why. And the reason why they're looking at those guys as who they want to move forward is, and by the way, I'm not saying these guys are running for president or anything like that. I'm just saying these guys understand the dire straits that over 60% of Americans are in, right? They understand it. And in understanding this, the people that are feeling the pain right now, and what gets to me is most of the times, the people that control your airwaves, the people that shows you your TV commercials, the people that are right in the newspaper, they cannot possibly understand in the aggregate, unless they make it their business to do so, what Americans are going through. They don't know. They can't see it. They live in their ivory towers. They live in their great neighborhoods. They live in all. And if they wanted to do the right thing, they will have to go out there and talk to people, be with the people, listen to what folks are going through. Go out to Appalachia. Have you ever driven out to see? I can never forget the time my daughter went into to Ohio, near West Virginia, and all these, and she said, "Dad, I didn't know people in America lived this way." But you see, they never make it onto TV, because all the people giving the news, all the people giving you this information, they don't know how these people are living. You have to be empathetic and make the effort to understand the plight of most Americans. It doesn't make TV. It rarely makes the news. And those of us who are concerned about it, we are made fun of, or we are called left-wing communists, or all these things we're called. We are the ones saying, look, we want an equitable system where if you work hard, if you are out there busting your butt, you're not sitting down there waiting on the dole, but you're trying to make it. But you can't, because the system is really, really rigged against you. And that is not hyperbole. The system by design is rigged to extract out of you. Let's see. I want to welcome Joanna from Los Angeles, California, Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, Harry Benson from Missouri, Texas. We got Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Thank you guys for being here. Let's see. I saw something. Eric says Bernie is a millionaire. How can he understand? Let me tell you how he can understand. He became a millionaire from selling his books and all. That's lucky for these guys. I wish that's how everybody did. But the guy has stature. Not only does the guy have stature, the guy actually goes among the folk, and he has a magical thing called empathy. Okay, I am not a woman, but after going through my atonement and learning that being a sexist is wrong, stupid, wrong-headed, I had enough empathy to know that I had to atone for my past sexism. Okay? Now, El Señor Bernie Sanders may be rich, but guess what? He knows the people. A lot of rich people out there that actually know that word called empathy, something that isn't wired in everybody's brains. All right. Likewise, welcome aboard Dale, Kim Wooten, Kathy McMore, Janet Shaver, Gail Cornish, Pamela Gig, Jenny Martin, and of course, Marge K from Chesapeake. That's Massachusetts, right? I think you put BA, but I think you meant Massachusetts or Chesapeake, Pennsylvania. I think it's Massachusetts. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyhow, and Alice Lavelle and Maria Miller among the many. Look, folks, all right, the second part You heard my discourse on the debt. Let's not blame overspending. Virginia, sorry about that. Virginia, it is Chesapeake, Virginia, for March KJ. Now, look, you hear about the deficit and overspending. We're only overspending because we are undertaxed, not because the wealthy is undertaxed. All right? I can make somebody overspend by not giving them income, right? So let's get the what caused the problem correctly. Undertaxing caused deficits. Deficits require selling bonds or debt, and those bonds never ever get paid. So every time a 20-year bond expires, we go back to the markets and sell more bonds to pay for those old bonds. And then we, above and beyond that, go to the market for the new debt that we're having. And the new debt that we're having, like the new debt we're going to have, the $3 trillion or so, would have been the results of Trump's tax cuts. I want you to understand that they don't explain it this way on TV. All our debt is caused by the rich being undertaxed. And you want to know how you know that as a fact? Because if you take a look at the trajectory of how their wealth grow, above and beyond the size of the growth of the economy, above and beyond. In other words, they're growing at 7 to 20% a year. You are either status quo in decline or barely going up in your debt. That means they are extracting as a percentage of the economy more. And if they're extracting more, you are getting less. And deficit spending, folks, cost us money, and then we pay. So we constantly give them money and then borrow it back from them and then pay them interest above that money. We have to understand how this stuff really works. Now, instead of Democrats, I'm not talking about progressives, now I'm talking about Democrats. Instead of them saying, we have to structurally, and structurally, just a fancy term of saying we have to change the difference in the way we tax people and all of that kind of stuff to fix this thing, they treat the wealthy as if they're untouchables. Everything that we ask is, how is it going to affect them? We don't ask how it affects the others. And Bernie Sanders asked that specific question with the 51,000 dead people that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the billionaires are back in the neoliberal abundance Coachella gathering draw hour from progressives. That's the title of this article that really set the tone. Days after national polls showed that the vast majority of Democratic voters want their party to focus on fighting corporate power and promoting policies that help working people instead of adapting the abundance agenda pushed by centrist pundits and conservative Democrats, a watchdog revealed a new reason many voters may be unconvinced by the abundance universe. According to an analysis by Revolving Door Project, the Abundance Movement Political Action Committee counts a number of conservative corporate-friendly billionaires among its founders, including members of the Walton family, former New York billionaire Michael Bloomberg, and Wall Street executives Rob Graneri and Mark Hyson. The analysis was released the day before the centrist Welcome Party is set to host its annual event, Welcome Fest, featuring a lineup of speakers, including U.S. Representative Elisa Slotkin from Michigan, who has slammed progressive use of the term oligarchy. Can you believe that? A Democratic Senator, Representative slamming progressives for using the word oligarchy, which, again, is the truth. Conservative Blue Dog Caucus Chair Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and Derek Thompson, co-author of the book Abundance. In that book, Abundance, they try to say that we don't need to really give all these, tax these folks. We just need to make things abundant by getting rid of regulation and all this kind of stuff. they pretty much sounded like Project 2025, Project 2025 light. Okay, we're talking Democrats now. And if you want to know why Hakeem Jeffries is quiet, why he's not saying much, while Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie and Murphy and all these guys are out there kicking the can and saying we need to do things right, you'll understand why these, what I call sellouts, are going through. They're selling out once again to not the real bad billionaires, but the marginal billionaires. The book argues partially that regulations and other bureaucratic bottlenecks make it harder to produce new housing and infrastructure. That's not true at all. By the way, we have to realize the truth. There are a lot of homes on the market right now. They're unused. They're empty. Florida has a lot of empty, overbuilt condos all throughout America. After the housing crisis, a lot of corporations bought up a whole ton of homes and just left them empty. One of the reasons we have the explosion in real estate right now is because there's a whole lot of empty space all over. Buildings downtown that used to be big office towers, empty. And then they talk about we have housing problems. We have housing problems by design. Remember yesterday when we spoke about AI, we brought up how we create false scarcity, meaning we make it seem like there are not a lot of things. We don't have enough of them, even though we have enough of them. We make believe there's not enough of them. And by doing so, what happens is we can jack prices up. That's exactly what's happening right now as well. Yes, this time it's caused by tariff, but at every end of the tariff, for every tariff that you pay, somebody receives the money that you pay on the other end. And in our case, it's the billionaires who gets the other end of the tariff because Trump wants to use that tariff for a what again? Tax cut. All these lines are connected, folks. All these lines are connected. But there's nobody that's really telling you step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Yeah, there's Jacobin Magazine, there's Common Dreams, there's Politics Done Right, and all of us with not the large penetrations that we need, but that you can afford us by making sure we stay being able to do this. But continuing. Given the Welcome Fest lineup, it's clear that the donor class views abundance as key to carrying out this self-serving crusade against populism. You hear what this author rightfully calls it? The self-fulfilling. It's the attack on the right kind of populism. Even more telling, said the group, is the list of donors. And who are these list of donors? 1.8 million since 2021 from LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. And he's the guy who, you know what he did? Remember Cory Bush out of Missouri? He's the guy who got Cory Bush beaten by a centrist Democrat. Understand how these people work, folks. $625,000 from Samuel R. Walton, grandson of Walmart founder. Wait, you mean Walton is giving money to these centrist Democrats? We thought they always did money for Trump. See, they have the same donor base, man. $150,000 from Carrie Walton. Oh, another Walton. $2.5 million from James Murdoch, estranged son of News Corp, Robert Murdoch. Fox News is giving money as well, too. They call him the estranged son, right? But he still have the culture. The abundance movement is funded by GOP mega donors. As Burke and again, they realize that the MAGA folks have gone off the cliff, and Americans are starting to know that. So now they come and they say, well, we better hold on to the centrist Democrats, pay them, and they'll do the bidding for us. They'll screw their own people for us. And when I say their own people, I'm also talking about the MAGA themselves. They just don't know it yet. All right. So Abundance Coachella are seeking juxtaposing their event with purportedly left-wing Democratic National Convention, rejecting so-called purity tests. At this point, it seems like we do need the purity tests, folks. as promises to offer a vision of depolarized United States welcome face, proudly touts the label of centrist insurgency. Centrists, my behind. The centrists have done nothing. Repeat, the centrists have done nothing for you. If I ask you to take a look at your financial and economic trajectory, look at the financial and economic trajectory of the top 10%, and go to the top 0.1%, and you'll get a big surprise. I'm going to continue this in a minute. I want to give a big thank you to Grace G. Grace G, new person coming into KPFT. Thank you so kindly for your contribution. I want to jump on to something that Sandy just spoke about, and that is they can tell you what to say. Remember, I mentioned earlier that why isn't the mainstream media explaining the debt as I did, as far as being something that is completely driven by tax cuts? They don't do that. Why is the New York Times, or rather, why is it the LA couldn't go ahead and endorse the way they could, or the Washington Post for that matter? Because the owners or the people that are paying says, nope, you can't do it. We won't do it. But when you do it, when you are at KPFT, if you notice, you hear antagonists call into this show every day. And I listen to everybody. Everybody has a voice. The airwaves belong to everybody, whether we like it or not. And we honor that here. We honor your voices. We honor you here. So we're asking you back to keep the support for a place where you have complete and entire freedom to be, and you have a voice. Every single one of you that are listening to us right now, whether you are here locally in Texas, or you're listening to us over Substack or at YouTube, or wherever you're listening to us, you have agency here. You and you have used it. In fact, Adam W. just said, "Hey, I'm here, Egberto. Sorry I'm late. I'm from Western Pennsylvania." And by the way, a big thank you to Adam W. Adam W. is in Pennsylvania, and he bought a coffee with Egberto for $2.50 and says, "I want you to decide on somebody to have coffee with." To which I said, "No, Adam, we will decide who I am supposed to have coffee with locally." And we also have in the house, it's happening, he said, Connecticut in the house, Hartman, Connecticut in the house. Thank you. It's never happening for being in the house with us. John A., Adam W., all of you guys are wonderful, wonderful people. On the other side, we have other chat. We have Glenn Ryan in the house with us. Glenn is doing some economics educating in the chat. Glenn is a wonderful person. He also took advantage of the coffee with Egberto. Thank you, Glenn, for being here as usual, brother. And thank you for the input you always have. And on the phone, we have another great supporter in Patrick. Come on in, Patrick. How are you doing, my brother?
Hey, good morning. You mentioned antagonist, and I just called to address that.
There you go, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay. Bernie Sanders, I found one link that debunks that he has a net worth of $15 million. I found two others that puts his worth at $2 to $3 million. Mm-hmm. People that think like me aren't concerned about net worth that is barely adequate to retire. And a net worth of about $4 million is where a lot of financial advisors will tell you that you need to have your goal at. Well, the people that think the way I do are concerned when people are making $10 million or more per year, because they can mount enough money to coerce other people, which is where democracy breaks down. Money is coercion. So if you have more money than you need, you have more coercion than you need. So we're again, you can be a millionaire, but it's when you're in double digits and triple digits in income is when we start getting worried, and that's where our focus is.
Thank you very much for that. Anything else, Patrick, you want to add before I move on?
No, sir.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate that. Now, listen to what Patrick just said, because I've heard that as well from other financial planners, etc. $4 million is a magic spot. Here's the thing. I won't have $4 million, not even close, not even one. And most Americans won't, right? And by the way, it's interesting because, I don't need to tell that story. But let me just say this. Most people don't come close to having what they're going to need for retirement, and they'll continue working all their lives. Now, whether I had 4 million or not, I think I would have probably continued working all my life. I just can't sit by and do nothing. But again, understand that all of this is possible if we had a government with empathy, not a government, politicians with empathy, and one that don't go out there and try all of the times to fool the people. All right, let me continue with our story on the abundance doctrine. Okay, so in the column and comment on Sunday, Aaron Ruttenberg, a public citizen, noted that proponents of the abundance doctrine agenda, like Adam Gentleson, a former chief of staff of John Fetterman, have taken pains to dismiss comparisons between the populist and abundance message. The recent poll by Demand Progress made the comparison impossible to ignore. Ruggenberg argued, showing that 81% of respondents said they'd be much more likely to vote for a candidate who wanted to get money out of politics, which we supported with the 28th Amendment that I worked on with Move to Amend, break up corporate monopolies, and fight for corruption. A few years ago, we made, with Move to Amend, we made a documentary called, Democracy, Legalizing Democracy. Look it up. Just search the internet. I'm actually a producer of that particular one. I want you to look it up. It's about a 28-minute documentary. Again, this is no charge. So we are 501c3, not charge. This is just something for you to see. Nobody makes any money on seeing the documentary or anything. It's there at YouTube, Legalizing Democracy. And one of the things that I said in that documentary is that money is not speech. Corporations are not people, but it's deeper than that. And at that point, we were the only organization talking about it. Now we have this article that is saying that most Americans are already there. They're already there. All politicians have to do is go where the American people are, and they're not. Just 47.7% said they would prefer a candidate who promised to reduce regulations that hold back the government and private sector from taking action for working and the middle class. At the moment when Democrats' efficacy in defeating Trumpism carries such existential stakes, these survey results demonstrate why many of us on the left have found the campaign to make abundance the new face of the Democratic Party so deeply concerning, wrote Ruggenberg. If abundance isn't going to help Democrats defeat the MAGA movement, then abundance advocates, or at least ones who care about ending Trumpism, should stop trying to define the future of the Democratic Party. Let's leave the work to Democrats who are trying to orient the party around a vision that voters actually find compelling. I repeat, a vision that actual voters, and this is whether it is liberal voters, whether it's voters in the middle, whether it's right-wing voters. Guess what we found out? Most of the things that they want, except for, again, some of those things like abortion, etc., are, guess what? Congress or similar. Let's remember that. Let's go to Brian. Brother Brian, come on in.
Yes, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Yeah, you always talk about democracy and how the Democrats are all for it, but yet Bernie Sanders was not chosen. Hillary Clinton was not chosen.
Mm-hmm.
And Kamala Harris was chosen without a primary. Now, who's the dictatorship now?
I don't know if I understand, sir.
You don't think Bernie Sanders was kicked out? You don't think Hillary Clinton, when Barack Obama, she sat there on the convention floor and said, "That's it, yep, I'm dropping out"? Now, she was told to drop out. Bernie Sanders was told, "Yeah, we'll give you some commissions or some something to do in Congress, but yeah, we want Hillary Clinton." And Biden dropped out due to problems, and everyone knew it, and it's been covered up completely.
I don't think anything was covered up. I think when Bernie was done wrong by the Democratic Party, all of us knew about it. I reported about it. And remember, I was a Bernie delegate, buddy. I reported in fact, while in Philadelphia, I was one of those who worked with our particular, what you call it, with our congregation, not congregation, you call them our people, that represented Bernie out of Texas. We helped prevent creating national catastrophe in that big auditorium, that big, whatever the place is, hall, because the Bernie folks from California and all the other delegations, they were about to go bat, crazy, because yes, they were done wrong, but that's politics. I'm not denying that politics is out there. So when you talk about Bernie being denied, you're absolutely right. But, it's politics, and Bernie and all of us that did in those days support Bernie, we played our cards not as we could have played our cards better. I mean, I am not saying that mistakes aren't made. And the same goes for Hillary. I actually do remember that Hillary did, in fact, win the popular vote, not Donald Trump, the first time around. The second time around, Donald Trump did win the plurality, not the majority, the plurality of the vote. In the case of Biden, however, Biden got a vast majority of the vote, not just a plurality, but a majority. So what we have is Donald Trump has never received the majority of the American vote. Of the voting people, Donald Trump has never received the majority. Biden has.
Incorrect. Incorrect.
Sir, it's not up for debate. Again, it's not up for debate. So don't tell me it's incorrect. You can look at these things up. Yes, he did. He win the popular vote?
Okay, yes, thank you. You just disputed your own facts.
Okay, let's stop for a minute.
Your own facts.
Okay, hold on a second, Brian, because I'm going to let you go in a minute, but hold on. Don't let him go yet. I want to point this out to the audience. I want you guys to see Brian's psychology. I explained that Mr. Trump has never won over 50% of the vote. The majority of the vote. He never has. Did he win the popular vote this time around? Yes. Did he win the popular vote this first time around? No. He neither won the popular vote or plurality of the vote. In this case, in this year, in 2024, he won the plurality of the vote. He did not win the majority of the vote. And to that answer, Brian says, "Oh, I contradicted myself." No, I didn't, Brian. Try to listen sometimes, my brother. That's how we make progress. Donald Trump has never won the majority of the votes ever. Thank you. Have a great day, Brian. All right, folks, I want to give a big thank you to Sylvia H. Thank you, Sylvia H., for becoming a sustainer out of Conroe, Texas. Love you, Sylvia. Muchísimas gracias por todo. First of all, I want to say, Sylvia, thank you for putting out that call to other nurses. Let me tell you, the loves of my lives are teachers and nurses. I think the workhorse, the people that keep us healthy, and the people that move knowledge forward, and two professions that are so needed and in many instances undervalued. Let me tell you, whenever whenever my wife or daughter is in the hospital, I sleep there. And let me tell you, especially now, and let me tell you why. I watch our nurses. And I watch what the corporatocracy is doing to our nurses. I watch them take a nurse and put her on an entire wing to control, to work on all these people to minimize their costs as that money goes up the ladder to the executives and the shareholders. I watch that with my own eyes. I sit and I talk to nurses that when I spend the night and I'm there at midnight, they can't really sit down and have a conversation much, but as they're checking their pressure and checking these things, I'm having some sort of a interaction with them because I'm always trying to learn how the system works. And the last time, which was last year, when my wife got complications due to shingles, and we stayed, Ashley and I alternated going into there and just watching how much work these men and women nurses are doing out there, watching the amount of work that you guys do, Sylvia. it's one of the reasons, one of my passions for reforming healthcare, for pulling healthcare apart and making sure that you guys, first of all, are compensated appropriately, not only for the work you do, but for the education that you had to pay for, and noting and remembering what they're doing to you by, again, trying to downgrade your, know that we are advocates for teachers. We are advocates for nurses. We're advocates for all those that are being taken advantage of by our corporatocracy. So yes, I want you to know that, and thank you for your support. And I didn't read the statement that Sandy read that you put underneath, but that just touches me. I'm just letting you know, Sylvia. Thank you for saying that. All right, folks, we are within our last 8 minutes or so of the program. There are a couple more articles that I wanted to go through, but I can't really right now with the time, but it is at politicsandright.com/newsletter. What we need to do right now is try to explain to you why we need to be funded by you. Earlier, Sandy pointed out a very important thing. Whenever you're watching mainstream media that's funded by regular commercials, that are funded by the defense industrial complex companies, by drug companies and all these other companies, you will never, and these are not bad people. Let me first qualify that. These journalists are not bad people at all. But they have to work within the guidelines of what their producers tell them to do. And those producers know exactly who's paying the bills. And they know that they better not say certain things about Ozempic. They better not say that Ozempic is severely overpriced. They better not say that most of these drugs that these companies are charging you an arm and a leg for, we are the ones, we the people, who pay the taxes that give the research grants to develop them. They dare not tell you that. Okay? But we can inform you that the debt is really caused not by too much Medicaid or too much food stamps or too much. It's really caused by wealthy people not paying their fair share. And it's not a cliche. We can prove it mathematically, and we talk about it mathematically so that you don't hear the response on Fox News or CNN that says, but if they're saying if every single rich person paid all of all the money in taxes, it still wouldn't be enough. That's a lie. What they've done is they've redefined what income is, what taxable income is, so that most of the money that the wealthy has isn't taxable. We explain how that works. You're not going to quite get that on the different channels. We do all of that. And look, if we remain on air, this is a constant place that you will get this kind of knowledge that you can either add to that knowledge or you can ask question when the phones are open. Egberto, how exactly does this work? And we'll talk about it. If for some reason I don't know it, we'll find out about it. And on another program the other day or whatever, we'll answer it. That is the interactive type of programming we have here. You are a part of it. You can't call MSNBC and say, hey, tomorrow I'd like you to talk about this. If you doubt me, you ask Patrick, who calls in here. You ask Glenn, who went out for coffee with me. You ask any one of these people if at any time they've changed the direction of this program. And the answer is yes. Jack Van Bever in our studio would come into the studio and talk about something on his mind. And I will say, damn it, Jack, you forced me to change what the program is going to be because we need to address that. That is the kind of interaction you have with a station that you own, because every single one of you who are donors, whether you are in New York, and thank you, our good friend Grace in New York, who became a new supporter today. You are now part owner of this station, and you have agency in this station. I want to give a very, very big thank you to Bill out of Southbury, Connecticut. Thank you so kindly. He says, I am a mighty man. I am a mighty man. I am a mighty man. I am a mighty man, mighty man. Yes, Bill, You are a mighty man. Absolutely a mighty man. Thank you for that great contribution, my dear brother Bill, for your support of politics done right. It is all about what we, the collective, all of us, need to know, learn, etc. And while you can't do that at these other major stations that are informing you, you can actually come and do it here. Whatever ideological bent you have, we get from Patrick to Brian. And I use those two because those are the two that called in this morning. A complete MAGA, super MAGA dude in Brian. And we give him the respect. We give him the opportunity to call in here. Even as I know, anytime I see that name Brian on the screen, I prepare myself. Okay, what is Brian going to hit me up with now? And Patrick always have good stuff with us. Always. And we have many Glenn. Glenn challenges me all of the times. Adam W., a new person in Substack. Gayla Kunis, a new person in Substack, always has good stuff to bring. Marge KJ. Marge, thank you for all you do as well. It's never happening. Look, all of you are a part of the family. All of you change the direction of this program with what you place in the chat, with what you do calling in. You make me think about what do I need to cover next, because it's an interactive program. You are the program. A lot of folks are talking about the Ernst statement that she made about we're all going to die. And the media has been going crazy about that story.
She faced her constituents at a town hall she held at 7:30 in the morning.
So when we're talking about the corrections in this reconciliation bill, again, it's corrections of overpayments and people that have not been eligible for these programs by law as it is currently written. So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes, folks, okay, no, but what you don't want to do is listen to me when I say that we are going to focus on those that are most vulnerable. Those that meet the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, we will protect. We will protect them.
Just to be clear, there's like 10 million plus American citizens that are going to be kicked off Medicaid, according to the CBO's own estimates, again, run by a Republican currently.
I want to point out something that is very important that we should know. It always seems like, and accuse me of identity politics here, if you will, but I have to point this out. I am no fan of Joni Ernst. Joni Ernst is not the worst MAGA person out there. In fact, she is just an acting MAGA person, right? She's not really with the program, but she has to act it out because of fear of the Führer. So she acts it out. But it made, as soon as she said, we are all going to die, it made they attacked this woman like no other. She became the Hillary Clinton of the mainstream media. And I looked at it and I'm like, but Joni Ernst isn't really the problem. Joni Ernst has not been the one committing. She hasn't yet, in this iteration, committed what's known as social murder. Social murder is when, because of the policies that you support, people die. Joni Ernst has taken the entire flack of the Republican evilness that occurring right now. I'm not talking about, remember folks, when I talk about Republican evilness, I'm not talking about rank and file Republicans, my average brother and sister. I am talking about the leaders that are doing these things. Joni Ernst has been taking the brunt of everything. And I wonder, why is it that while she hasn't yet in this iteration committed social murder, why is it that, let's say, Ted Abbott, or not Abbott, our governor, here we call him Ted, our Governor Abbott has not, Dan Patrick has not, and all of these folks who have passed legislation that actually kills people. All right? We are just about to finish another legislative session here in Texas. And still, we don't have the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. We are still not taking the tax dollars that Texans, all of you Texans out there, my brothers and sisters, Texans, all of you out there, you have paid into the Medicare expansion to the Affordable Care Act. You have already paid those dollars. You have spent those dollars. Whether ideologically or not, Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott wants to provide health care for the indigent and the poor that is available to provide right now. It's there for them to use. But Abbott and Patrick and the entire Republican legislature, as they are passing bills to restrict women, as they're passing bills to kill businesses that work with THC, as they're doing all these things, the one thing that they could not do, or they decided isn't worth their time, their morality, or their humanity, is to say, let's give health care that's already paid for by Texans to our poor, our rural folks, the indigent, and others. Let's do that. They didn't. And I don't see, a national media really letting Abbott and Patrick and the Republican legislature in the 10 red states that refuse to give their people the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. I don't hear the media talking about, look at what they said. She said we all are going to die. And you know what? Guess what? We are all going to die. I mean, she said it in a corny, rather insensitive manner. But you know what? We're all going to die. But somehow it is okay to beat up on Joni Ernst. And look, I'm not defending Joni Ernst. I'm saying, how comes it becomes so easy to beat up on this woman, but it's so difficult for the media? Write stuff in your face, people dying from the policies in effect, not the policies that may be in effect, but by the policies in effect. Why is it that we are not really hitting on those who are killing Americans? And note that what I'm saying, they're killing Americans. I mean, again, I said I don't want to play identity politics, but it seems like when women do a little something, the attack is on. But when these guys go out there and do other things, who cares? No big deal. It's just a policy thing. It's just a policy thing. Yesterday, Michael Johnson goes on TV, looked into the eye of every American listening. He was looking into that camera, and he said, the big, beautiful bill will not increase the deficit. That was patently a lie. And the person who interviewed him never said, sir, you're lying. You are lying when he said it is not going to cut Medicaid. And we know that it's going to cut Medicaid because of the new because of the new policy requirements within that. It is going to kill me. And he looks into all of your eyes. And this isn't the first time they've done that. They've done this in 2016, or rather 2017. They've done it over and over again. They look in your eye. And by the way, MAGA, I'm talking to you, my brothers and sisters. You're the one that's going to pay the price. You are the ones who pay most of the price right now for all those places that chose, I repeat, for all your red state governors that chose not to give you the health care, the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, you are the ones suffering. They just don't tell you on the news that the reason you can't get the health care is your governor chose not to give it to you. And it's already paid for. Your governor only has to pay 10%. And in the first 3 years, it was free. The federal government paid it all. Texas paid it. California paid it. Florida paid it. New York paid it. Connecticut paid it. And so when your aunt, your cousin, died because they couldn't get the medicine, died because they held back from going to the doctor because, you know what, man, I ain't got health care. I can't pay for that MRI. That money was there to spend, and they chose not to do it. It was a choice. It was a choice by policy of Republican politicians not to support you. And again, it's the MAGA-dominated states that didn't accept the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act. So by progressive and not progressive, for my mainstream media, yeah, give hell to Joni Ernst, but don't forget about Dan Patrick. Don't forget about Greg Abbott. Don't forget about Mike Johnson. Don't forget about even Louisiana. Finally, decided, you know what, we better give health care to our citizens, because guess what started to happen in Louisiana? Some of our Louisiana brothers and sisters started to wake up. And that was right in the backyard of who again? Mike Johnson. So, folks, I want you to wake up. I want to give a big thank you to Mayana in the studio, as well as Jack Van Beber and Howard Reynolds. Thank you for all you do to keep us on air. Sorry for the little mishap, my brothers and sisters, that we had in the beginning, but we always come back. Catherine Hill, welcome. DMG, Justin Shaw, Adam W., thank you for being here. We got to get out of here now, folks. Look, I want to thank you all for listening. I want to thank you all for being a part of our family. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives